Arcades have been around for a long time, but the modern 1980s video arcade culture was a pretty short-lived phenomenon. Pinball was really popular in the 1970s, and then starting around the late 1970s to about the mid-1980s, that was the golden age of the video arcade culture. That was a time when we had video games like Space Invaders, PacMan, one of my favorites, Miss Pac-Man, and Frogger, and Donkey Kong. Those were three of my favorites. And Cubert, Asteroids, Tempest, Joust. Oh my gosh, there were so many, and they were so much fun. This is what a 1980s video arcade sounded like. Okay, that's loud. I'm definitely not nostalgic for that sound, but it was still a lot of fun. It wasn't just a place to play video games. It was the meetup place. You could make new friends, meet up with old friends, flirt, go on a date. It was a time when people actually socialized face to face. Anyone else remember that? Oh yeah, those were good times. And it wasn't just kids. Adults played video games too, and they were everywhere. You could go to the convenience store and there were machines. You had theme restaurants, there was the roller rink, as well as the dedicated video arcade. And here's some authentic video arcade footage from the 1980s. I will link to the full video down in the description. Oh wow, I had that exact same shirt. Oh wow, that was prescient. PacMan was originally called PacMan, but the creators knew it was going to be just a little too easy and too tempting for fans because they could easily change that P to an F. So that's why PacMan is called PacMan and not PacMan. I'll let this professor of gaming history explain how there were almost controllers made specifically for women. This is a great piece of history. Just watch.
The unusual Boob Controllers of Atari's Gotcha. This was Atari's way of trying to combat a phallocentric joystick when it comes to gameplay. Atari felt it could attract female gamers if it gave them controllers shaped as women's breasts.
The Boob Controller. Oh yeah. There's nothing us lasses like more than fondling breasts and playing video games. Wait, no, I'm pretty sure that's a male fantasy. You know, if you didn't want people to perceive your controller as phallic, maybe you shouldn't have called it a joystick. Many of the video game backdrops on these machines were made from the same plastic that these Halloween masks were made from. Does anyone remember these? Oh my god, they were horrible. First of all, they were just ugly. They didn't even look very authentic. And they were hot, and you couldn't breathe, and they would cut into your skin, and you'd just be a big, disgusting, bloody mess for Halloween, which I guess if you could see underneath the mask would be a unique Halloween look, but they were not good. And I'm pretty sure that Spider-Man is right now floating in the ocean and choking a sea turtle to death. Home consoles and PCs eventually took over, and so the 80s video arcade unfortunately went from being a multi-billion-dollar industry to dwindling down to, But the video arcades eventually made a resurgence, so you can still find these 1980s video game machines out there, usually in bigger cities. And there are also emulators you can play on your PC, and there are even newer versions of all these old video games. Personally, I'm not a big fan of those. I'm old school. I like the retro vintage games, but hey, whatever you're into, as long as you give the old games some love, I'm happy. I've been informed by a friend that there are some video game journalists. Okay, I can't do air quotes with an injured finger, but that's okay. You really shouldn't be doing air quotes. No one should do air quotes. So these so-called journalists, these gaming journalists, have written articles, and I'm guessing that it's all written from the perspective of, oh, why weren't those 80s arcades progressive and woke and, oh, identity politics and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. If you run across any of these articles, please don't share them. I'm not interested in revisionist history. I want to remember the innocent fun days. Oh sure, occasionally a spat would break out when people would put their quarters on a machine, and that's how they would reserve the machine, and then sometimes the person who's playing didn't want to give it up. Remember that? Remember you put the little quarters on the little stack and you're like, okay, well now I'm up next. And then someone else would come along and they put their stack over on the other side. So then you might have like a three-way fight. But that was life. We figured it out. We worked it out. It was such a fun, innocent time when people would meet up in the arcade and you would make new friends and you'd see old friends, and nothing is ever going to replace that genuine human contact, that face-to-face friendship, that human connection. Maybe if you've never had that experience, you don't know what it's like, but I think that's sad. So yeah, online gaming's fun, but no. I'm still nostalgic for those 1980s video arcades.